Johnny Appleseed was more than just a vagrant with a bag of apple seeds who wandered around the countryside in what was once the Wild West, Ohio, Indiana, and Pennsylvania. Johnny Appleseed stayed one step ahead of the settlers. He would scout out locations that looked to him like good places for people to build, and he would then plant orchards and fence them so that by the time the settlers arrived, he had apple trees ready for them to buy. John Chapman was many things, and one of the things he was an evangelist. As he traveled along through the countryside, through the frontier, he would stop in villages and stop at cabins and would speak to people about his faith. He was a Christian and a follower of Swedenborg, and by all accounts was a very good preacher. He was also a vegetarian, which was very unusual for that time. Among other things, he not only did not eat meat, but he felt that riding a horse constituted cruelty to animals, and so walked everywhere he went. There was also a story told that when seeing a bug fly into his campfire one night, he promptly extinguished his campfire because he did not want another living thing to suffer because of his need for light and heat. John Chapman, Johnny Appleseed, was a very eccentric man. His clothing was the bare minimum, was very spare. He would wear a feed sack belted at the waist. He would go barefoot. The story of him wearing a pot on his head was probably not true, although there are some pictures of that. Researchers don't believe that that was true. Johnny Appleseed did not believe in grafting. Now, grafting is the way that you get good apples. You take a branch from an apple tree that produces good fruit and graft it into another tree so that it will produce that fruit. Apples that are planted from seed generally grow fruit that is not very tasty for eating, but that fruit is good for creating cider. So what Johnny Appleseed brought to the settlers were apple trees to create cider. Cider was the everyday drink. When you could not drink the water because it could make you sick, you tended to drink either juices or mildly alcoholic beverages, which is what the settlers did with cider. They would press it and then let it ferment a bit until it turned into hard cider, and that was their main drink. So people were happy to see Johnny Appleseed, as he was the provider of the apples that provided them their hard cider. Finally, John Chapman was a friend to all, both settlers and the natives in the area. He was one of the few white men who was allowed easy access, unlimited access to both settlements and Native American settlements. He was a man who was considered a friend to animals, people, pretty much anything alive that he came across. He was a very interesting man, and way more than Walt Disney presented him as.
Created using Powtoon.